I may never buy a name brand guitar again. I'll make one instead. With the new and improved LongMill MK3 coming out, we thought, what better way to break in the new machine than with a new and improved guitar? But we've already built 3 guitars in the past, so what are we gonna do differently for this one? Let me tell you. I'm gonna build a chambered style guitar, and I'm going to do it all in Vectric Aspire, including the modeling for the body and the neck. Because I'm doing it from scratch, you know I'm gonna share some tips and tricks from my experience that will help save you headaches and make your guitar the baddest axe you can make. Let's rock and roll. Before we get too far with this video, I'm going to mention that even though I'm creating the models in Aspire, I'm going to create files for VCarve as well. You won't be able to modify the models in VCarve, but you will be able to open the files and explore and even cut out the same project. As I said, we've already made a couple of guitars before, so why make another? First, this guitar is going to try some new techniques in Aspire that are really going to flex the software's muscles. I also expect to improve on some of the processes from the previous guitar projects. Hopefully this inspires you to make your own one-of-one guitar. For me, it's a pretty cool thing to know that I have the only one of these in the world. And last but not least, I'll be using the new and improved LongMill MK3. With the auto spin, I love the ability to control feeds and speeds with gsender. I use this a lot with testing to get things dialed in. And it was super helpful, especially when carting really hard woods. Closed loop stepper motors and limit switches are awesome. And we definitely put these to the test with this project. Now that you know the whys, let's talk design. I debated back and forth for what style of guitar I wanted to make for this build. I got stuck in the mud of whether or not it should be a hollow body, a semi-hollow body, and the pros and cons for each. Both types use a CNC to create them, but neither was going to be super CNC involved. Not really a con per se, but I typically like the CNC to have a heavy supporting role in these projects because it helps keep me gainfully employed. And I like my job. Then I finally woke up and stopped worrying about what type it should be and just started designing something I thought looked cool. So let me run you through that madness. I was taking inspiration from guitars like Gibson 339s, Gretsch G6's overall forms, but I definitely wanted to add my own flavor to it. Here's the design I came up with. The crazy part is I designed this guitar around a piece of wood, which I don't think is how it's normally done, but when I saw this piece of black and white ebony, I knew it was the one. The problem with this particular piece of wood was that it wasn't wide enough to make the top that I wanted, so I had to come up with a solution. The solution is that I'm going to leave a ring around the perimeter of the body. I'm going to have a little shelf inset inside the ring for the ebony to sit on top of. By maximizing the width of the ebony plus the ring, it gives me the size of guitar I'm looking for. Speaking of the body, because of this stunning black and white ebony top, I want the rest of the guitar aesthetic to be almost understated. I don't want it to be as noticeable and to steal the show. The body and the neck are mahogany, but I'm staining them the blackest black I can find with Rubio, matched with an African black wood fretboard, top it off with a matching ebony headstock, and I think this guitar is going to look as badass as it sounds. So for the first test that I did, I used rigid foam, and I've talked about that in previous videos, how it's cheap, you don't break bits, you can run really quick speeds. I had a bit of an epiphany, I guess if you want to call it that, is as great as a rigid foam is, there's still a certain level of flex to it, right? I kind of was like, you know what, I really want to make sure before I carve into this expensive wood that I'm doing a proper test. So we're going to use some glued together MDF. It's easy to find in sheet form to cut to size and glue it together, and it's going to give me a far more accurate representation of how the actual carve and the actual final piece is going to go. So when I want to fit this in, there's not going to be any flex in the material, and when I carve the expensive wood, I'm not making a mistake. All right, the fitness test. I'm expecting it not to fit, but yeah, that shifts. So foam is really good for like that initial dirty testing, prototyping. But when we're talking actual fitment, this is giving me probably a much more accurate representation of how this is going to fit together. So, I mean, realistically, we're talking like thousandths of an inch to make this fit. And I could just, you know, give a little sand, or I'm probably going to go in my file, and when I recut this one, I'm going to shrink it in by literally like a thousandth of an inch just to get it to tuck in a little bit better. So. Even though this was my third guitar and many of the tool paths were basic pockets and profiles, there's still a level of precision that made life tricky. Add in new materials, a new style of guitar, and testing certainly had its fair share of challenges. There were also a bunch of bits used. Here's the quick rundown. For the fret slots in the purfling, I used 0.024 inch downcut bits. If you've never used these, they're tiny and fragile. High RPMs help to evacuate chips, and slow speeds will do the trick. You have no choice but to go slow with these. 0.0625, 0.125, and 0.25 downcut bits were used for all of the pockets and profiles for each part of the guitar. 0.125 single flute upcuts was used to cut out the profile for the aluminum neck plate. No lubrication, plus these settings left clean edges with no chatter. 0.25 inch ball nose was used for the 3D finishing tool paths like the neck and the fretboard. 0.125 inch roundover was used to create the ever so slight roundover edge around the body, and 30, 60, and 90 degree V-bits were used for the fine details like the hidden text in the body and the Manta logo on the back of the neck plate. Body is done. The original test top fits in there. Pretty smooth process, a couple of hiccups to be expected. Now we're moving on to the black and white ebony. If something goes wrong, there's no backup plan, so we'll just use cardboard. So, onto the top, let's get it rolling. Success. Mission success. Not gonna lie, pretty nervous today. Some expensive chunks of wood, some really fine cuts that have to fit together, otherwise it's gonna look weird. It fits. It needs a little bit of sanding here and there. Otherwise, I'm really genuinely thrilled by how this turned out. Now I just have to do a fretboard and neck and assemble a guitar. How hard can that be? Purfling was something new for me. I'm hoping it gives a better final result than the wood filler and CA glue I tried for the last neck. If you don't know, the process is simple. Use acetone to melt the purfling into the channel you've carved and let it dry. I didn't think it was going to be so simple, but it was a super fun trick to learn and it worked great. I also figured that cutting my fairly wide purfling in half would make it easier to bend and manipulate into the slots. Or you can just buy the thinner stuff, which that works too. And I may have heated pieces of purfling up in my mouth to really warm them up before I installed them. Maybe not the most hygienic, but it certainly worked. And even though I tried my best, there were still a couple of small gaffes or parts that didn't quite work out perfectly with the purfling that needed filling once it was dry. So I melted some purfling shavings into the acetone, made a slurry to fill any holes, filled all the gaps, easy peasy. Another tip I want to draw people's attention to is expecting the CNC to do everything for you for finishing. This is nothing new, and this is not just a tip for guitars. I'm not just talking about step over and how smooth the final finish is, although that's something to consider as well. What I'm talking about is the reality for a lot of people is their limitation with the software and the programming side of things means there could be some manual finishing work needed when a project is done carving. Even if you are able to program exactly what you're after, wood is a medium that sometimes needs some love after machining, which is also a good reminder that I need to, get back up to snuff on learning Onshape, but that's a different story. So just be realistic when you are creating a project with how much you expect the CNC to finish for you. The machine and the material can only do so much. I'm about to stain the body like the jet black color that I've been thinking about since I came up with the idea. The body's got to be something that doesn't take away from that. And this mahogany staining jet black, I'm genuinely excited about. I'm about to do it, and I thought I would just drop it and tell you I'm excited. That's it. Here we go. I'd like to give a shout out to Rubio for hooking us up with this jet black for the body and the neck. It's a two-part process where you apply a pre-color first. Once that dries, you add a protective oil layer on top of that. I didn't take a lot of footage of messing around with the truss rod and getting this thing screwed in. I took some footage. My bullet design, beautiful as it is, was not super functional for getting an Allen key in there. Truss rod fits in like it's supposed to. But my Allen key, I ended up, you can see, putting a little wonky bend in there. And I had to do that because my bullet wasn't deep enough, long enough to get it in there. But the good news is, a quick little modification to an Allen key and ta-da! Hindsight is 20/20 because I'm kicking myself. I did test carves, but I didn't actually drill it out. I didn't test to see if it would actually work. Hence why I'm here giving this confessional. So do tests, but do full tests, not just theoretical tests. Couldn't sleep. I wanted to see what this thing looked like, so hence why I'm wearing an Inside Out Bass Pro Shop shirt. It's 5 a.m. I glued this up yesterday. I actually couldn't sleep. I want to see what it looks like, so I'm gonna un-Game of Thrones this body and hope that it went the way I wanted. For my third guitar, I'm pretty pleased, but I'm starting to see guitar building as a bit of a sickness. It's a struggle and a challenge to complete, and you swear you don't want to do it again, But before you're even finished with the one causing the pain, you're already thinking about how you can improve on the next one. Knowing everything you know to build an entire guitar from scratch is tough. So don't let anyone tell you building a guitar is easy. There's just a lot of things to know about, so when it comes time to build your first one, be kind to yourself. Thanks for watching. We really hope we've inspired you to challenge yourself to step outside your comfort zone to build something unique. If you've got any questions or comments, drop them below. We love hearing what our audience has to say. Until the next one, see you around the CNC.